Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's presentation. We've hit the top of the hour at the scheduled start time for today's presentation. So before we go ahead and go into today's topic, I wanted to cover a bit of housekeeping with you all. Today's presentation will be recorded, so keep an eye on your inbox and the day or so following the event for a link to the recording. We'll also include some other links that we talk about in the session for further information on today's topic as well. Also, if you have any questions for our presenter either during the presentation or afterwards, please feel free to direct them via our Q&A or chat window, and we'll do our best to cover the questions as they come, or not as they come in, but cover the questions that come in or comments as time allows. So with that being said, thank you for joining us for today's process optimization feature with Stratusphere UX webinar. Chris Walker, who is one of our experts at Stratusphere, is going to take us through today's presentation and introduce you to the process optimization feature in Stratusphere. So Chris, you want to go ahead and take us away?
Yep. Thanks, Ray. Welcome, everyone. My name is Chris Walker. I'm a solution architect for Liquidware based in the Southeast. I focus mainly on Stratusphere, but I do cover all of our different solutions. Just a quick heads up, Liquidware, been around 10 years, enterprise architecture type information. Profile Unity, our persona management, allows me to manage users, whether they're in the cloud, physical, virtual. Our FlexApp layering technology allows me to attach applications on the fly as customers log in based on their needs, their groups, or where they're coming from. Very powerful for rapid deployment of applications to users. Today, we're going to talk about Stratusphere UX and specifically the optimization capabilities of Stratusphere. So Stratusphere has been around for 10 years. This is one of our key architecture around user experience. So end-to-end visibility of those users, what they're doing, their applications, everything that would relate to that user. So the protocol, the remote display protocol, the CPU, the disk, the graphics intensity, how fast is their mouse responding and latency, any clicks that they may be having in the environment. Helps a lot too with baselining and onboarding of users. So I can put an agent onto a physical machine, monitor that physical user, determine what his characteristics are, what applications he's running, and then I need to move him to the cloud or to Citrix or to VMware. We can then very easily move that user because I know exactly what he's doing. I know his full workload. I'm not guessing. So I'm not buying too much hardware or not enough. Then when he does move into the virtual environment, I can then diagnose his issues. But today we're going to talk mainly about optimization. This is a feature inside of Stratusphere. Comes with it. It's part of the Stratusphere license. You can turn it on by group, an individual user, or for the entire company. So anybody who's running a Stratusphere agent, this allows me to raise and lower CPU priority of applications and processes. So at the end of the day, I want to be able to control those processes that are on that machine that may be slowing that user down. Think about a use case. I'm on my laptop. I'm running Google Chrome. I'm watching the news. Maybe I'm watching a video in the background or something like that. My boss calls. I swap over to Excel, but Chrome is sitting in the background, killing my machine, eating up a lot of CPU processing power. Well, our optimization process will actually lower Chrome to below normal and allow me to get more CPU back for my foreground application. So those background applications like TI Worker, which is the Windows update process, Google Chrome, updating of Firefox, or Chrome updating itself, those processes are pushed down. I can also terminate applications, little things that I don't want to run in my environment. The Google Chrome Software Reporter tool. Cool little utility written by Google to help improve usability of Google Chrome, but it eats up a lot of CPU and memory, and I really don't want it running in my environment. So I could terminate those processes. And at the bottom, memory trimming. Got an application, it's sitting in the background, not really doing anything. I can start trimming off bits of the utilization and moving that to the swap file. Unlike the normal Windows swapping process that would happen when the machine got to, say, 70, 75%, and then it's moving big blocks to the page file, can be very intrusive to the machine, and it's already under load. So we are proactively moving small components of applications to the page file if they're not touched within a certain amount of time. And then you can control each one of these aspects of the environment and the optimization based on the machines or groups in your environment. So why do we need process optimization? Think about Windows OS churn. How many versions of Windows are out there? How effective are they? What new features, Cortana, different things that are running inside of Windows that Microsoft keeps bringing to the market, and they're doing this to help us optimize and give us new features and things like that. So newer versions of Windows 10, application updates. I've got probably 200 applications on my desktop. Each one of them has an auto update feature. So pretty much every day, one application on my desktop is updating itself. A hybrid environment where you have cloud type workspaces. These could potentially be undersized because you sized it, you needed 2 CPUs, but they're an AutoCAD user or they're doing a lot of other things. So as we move users into hybrid environments, the environments might be undersized, but I still want to give that user a good experience. So by focusing on the foreground application as highly above normal, I'm able to give that user a good experience where the background applications are then pushed down. Here's a big one. In the physical environment, we've had a lot of customers actually extend the life cycle of their desktops. So in the banking environment, think about the teller machines, medical environment. You've got nurses, clinicians running around with all these machines that could be 2, 3, 5 years old. By optimizing the processes on those machines, I can actually extend their life sometimes as much as 18 months because the foreground process goes to above normal. So we're talking about OS churn. Here's just some of the different versions of Windows that have been released over the years, and a study done by one of the online study organizations. And they actually figured out how much CPU, how much RAM, how much disk I/O does the base operating system, but a knowledge worker running Word, Excel, take up. So you can see how the graph is actually steadily going up as Microsoft optimizes different features inside the Windows OS. So mitigating that so that this laptop that's only a year old can continue to run the next version of Windows effectively. Application processes. I talked about all the different applications on my desktop and when they're updated. That update process takes CPU cycles on my machine. So I'm constantly being hit with this background processes of updating my workstation, and that process needs to be pushed down so that while I'm doing a webinar, it's not affecting my presentation to my customers or me doing development. Those background processes should not affect me in my environment. So why do we need it? Different cloud providers or VMware, Google, Nutanix, Amazon, Citrix, you will use them in different ways. So, if I'm in Amazon workspaces, I need it a certain way. Citrix is an app. VMware, I may need to optimize different ways based on my image. So I take an image and I put it on VMware or I put it on Citrix. It's got certain characteristics. I optimized it, hopefully got rid of a lot of the noise. 30 days later, I do an update so that noise comes back. Process optimization helps me to mitigate that risk so that those small processes that are trying to update them or their applications trying to update them doesn't blow me out of the water, doesn't cause me an event where I've got to take the whole system down, re-optimize it, and bring it back online. In the physical environment, talked about this earlier, extending life cycle of those older things, possibly even skipping a refresh cycle. If you're a large bank with, say 20,000 tellers out there, if you can push that life cycle of that machine one more year, that could be millions of dollars. So I could focus a optimization profile just on those old teller machines to make them run more effectively. So how does it work? What does it actually do? This is just a picture of simple task manager, and this runs the Stratusphere CID or connector ID agent, runs on a machine. We're already collecting all the stats about the machine. CPU, memory, disk, network, per process level, what's going on in the box, disk I/O, all of that's being collected by the agent on your particular machine. Very lightweight. About a year ago, we came out with optimization. So it's been around for a while. We've been testing with a lot of customers, solid technology. In fact, we've tried to actually determine what's the load of turning on optimization. We can't detect it. It's so small because we're doing something very simple. Notice here in this example, Visio is my foreground application. So, but Chrome is running in the background, eating up a lot of CPU cycles, 34%, Edge is back there, Snagit is back there. Process optimization has taken my background processes and set them to low, and my foreground application, what's actually in focus, I'm clicked on and working on right now, Visio is set to above normal. All I'm doing is changing the base priority of the thread of the executable to above normal. Almost zero overhead to do that. You can actually do it in Task Manager. You can go in there, right click. If you're fast enough, you could change it, do exactly what Optimizer is doing. Bottom left-hand corner, very important. Does not engage if not needed. So we engage at a per core level. So if one core is overloaded, based on that thread, we would start throttling things on that core. Or if the whole CPU is having an issue, we would throttle it based on the entire CPU. So very fine level of granularity. Nothing is allowed to monopolize an individual CPU in the environment. So, and it's the in-focus applications that are raised to above normal. Now, some people ask, hey, what about virus protection or, critical things? I'm, doing an SCCM scan on my machine, things like that are, mission critical. Optimizer has what we call a do no harm mentality. So if we ask a process to lower itself, say like semantic antivirus, we may ask semantic antivirus to lower itself because it's eating up a lot of CPU. Semantic antivirus would then say no, and we don't ask again. So if we ask a process to lower itself based on the base priority, and it says no, we don't ask it again. All right, so the do no harm, you never want to throttle your virus protection software. I've seen people do that with other solutions that get in there and do CPU clipping and things like that. And that is very dangerous to throttle your virus protection software. As part of, I talked about earlier in the profile, so inside of Stratusphere, you would pick a profile for a group of machines or an individual machines. So multi-user, like the Citrix XenApp, RDSH from VMware, AppStream, actually not AppStream from Amazon, it's not multi-user, but a machine that's running RDSH services, Microsoft WVDE, where you have multiple users on a single machine. So I don't want a single user to hurt the other users. So I'm on a machine with 15 other users in XenApp, and I'm running Chrome or something that's just killing the box. We would actually mitigate that and lower his capabilities so he doesn't hurt other people. But you can pick different profiles based on the machines, group of machines that you want to turn it down to. Real conservative, aggressive. I've seen people assign Windows 10, single processor, 4 gig of RAM, put us in aggressive mode, and the application still performed very well. Not recommended, but it's because of the limitations of the hardware that he had to do that. He had to do one CPU. Put it in aggressive mode. The foreground application was above normal. The machine was very responsive. Not recommended again, but it can do that. Here's how you configure it. So under the connector ID page in the administration, you basically enable process optimization. You've got paths, so I'm going to exclude certain things. Amazon tools, Citrix tools, Microsoft tools, Profile Unity, our tools, Teradata. We put in here a default list of things that should be excluded, processes to automatically raise or lower. And as you notice down at the bottom in our demo system, somebody has terminated Candy Crush, the Google Chrome Software Reporter tool, Xbox Live, those processes will not run on any machine in my environment where Process Optimizer is enabled. So I can actually terminate individual processes. Then again, as you notice at the top, it says optimization profile, and then I could assign this to a group of users as needed as well. Reports. So people ask, okay, I've got Optimizer running out there. What is it doing? Well, built right into Stratusphere are optimization reports. As a best practice, when I install Stratusphere into a customer's virtual environment, I generally don't turn on Optimizer first thing. I want to use my Stratusphere data to try and fix the issues, optimize the architecture, optimize the image. Then if I run into things that I can't optimize anymore, then I engage Optimizer. It's basically you want to try and mitigate or fix the problem first. But if you turn on Optimizer, there are several reports in Stratusphere that let you look at what is Optimizer doing out there in the environment? What applications does it keep throttling and raising and lowering? Do I need to put those in my always raised list? So this is a good way to look at, find out what is Optimizer doing in my infrastructure that where maybe I may need to tweak my image because that application is killing me and Optimizer is always having to mitigate it. Maybe I built a bad image. This would help me see that information. And Ray, if you want to wrap us up with the resources or any questions, actually.
Sure, sorry about that. I had the rare double mute there going. All right, so here's a couple questions. Is there a separate license for Optimizer?
There is not. Stratusphere UX is a single license. Everything you see in Stratusphere, it's basically one SKU. It's licensed per user, either named or concurrent. But everything optimization comes with it. It's just a checkbox that you enable.
Okay, that's great. We had a question earlier that I answered in the chat, and someone had asked if we could share out the screens about the Windows versions that we had out there. Just for a reminder for everyone, we will share a link of this recording, including the slide deck, in an email, so keep an eye on your inbox in the days following the event for a link to that, plus some of these other resources that you see here where we talk about our white paper. I don't expect anyone to grab that URL and copy and try to type that in off there, but we'll send out that as well. Also links to the community and to the website for some more information. A few more questions as they kind of come in here. Someone asked, technically, how does it gently or safely limit resources? Is this done through ESX or some other process?
Yep. Let's go back to the task manager view. So our agent is running on the virtual machine or physical machine. So we're running actually inside of Windows. And inside of Windows, I detect through an API, Windows will tell me, hey, Visio is the foreground application. So Visio right here is my foreground in-focused application. And if the machine is under duress, the CPU is overloaded or a single core is overloaded, then I would start throttling the background processes by basically switching Chrome or Edge to a base priority of low and Visio above normal. So now this didn't do anything with the hypervisor or the cloud. This is inside the Windows guest operating system.
Okay, great. Here's another question. Will Optimizer work in the cloud? I think specifically they're asking about Amazon workspaces and Azure.
Yep. At the end of the day, it's Windows. So whether you're running in an Amazon environment, a Microsoft environment, a private cloud, Citrix, VMware, Nutanix, if you're running Windows 7 and above, Server 2012 and above, it's Windows to us. So we're going to optimize the processes and the memory in Windows. It doesn't matter where it's running, if it's running on a laptop or in the Amazon cloud, we don't care. It's Windows.
Okay, so with that, there's another question here that asks, Chris, does Optimizer work on Mac?
Not at this point. We haven't had a lot of calls to do process optimizations on Mac. If you have a lot of Macs, hit us up on sales at liquidware.com, and recommend that. I personally have not been asked for Optimizer yet on the Mac environments. My Mac runs pretty well.
Okay. Here's another question. Someone asked, what happens if you have two applications running side by side?
Good point. Notice the word here, in focus. So even if you had 4 monitors, you're still clicked on one of those applications. So if my primary monitor and I'm clicked on Outlook, and I may have Chrome and Firefox running on other monitors, it's the one that I'm actually clicked on, or what's called in focus by Microsoft. So you're absolutely right. You got 2 applications side by side, but you're clicked on the left one. That's the one that's actually in focus.
Okay, great. Someone asked, will Optimizer reduce the load from my virus protection software?
Good point. So yeah, we talked about this earlier. The agent, the optimization agent, it will ask the virus protection software, hey, can I lower you? Virus protection software or protected processes, things like that, it will say no, and then we will not ask it again. We do not force anything down, and like virus protection software, you never want to throttle because you'll wait on I/O and all kind of stuff for the AV. So we will ask the AV, or you can actually put it on our exclusion list as well, but we will ask it, it will say no, and then we will not ask it again.
Okay, great. Let's see, here's another question. Does Optimizer have any reports on what it is doing?
Yep, we covered that. So in Stratusphere, under the report section, there's a category called Process Optimization Reports. This lets you know what's going on, what actions is it taking, things like that. So a lot of detailed, very good to look at, because Optimizer may be going nuts because of some application in your environment, constantly raising lower, raising lower, and raising lower, up and down all the time. That is noise. So I want to look at these reports when I engage Optimizer so I can eliminate that noise.
Okay, great. So I see one more question here. We'll see if any more come in after this. But one question is this a standard feature of Stratusphere?
Yes, it is. As of 6.1.0, Stratusphere and above, 6.1.3, 6.1.4 being the latest version, which has a few more little features and capabilities in it. But this has been around for over a year now.
Okay.
And if you own the Stratusphere license, this comes with it.
Great. A few more questions have popped in. One person asked, is there an SDK for opt-in? I have a tool tray idea. I'm not sure if I'm reading that quite right there, but.
An SDK, so a software development kit. We do not have an SDK for our agent. However, the Optimizer process, when you set up these profiles, there is actually an INI file in the local directory where you can control it more granularly. So say, yes, instead of using single user conservative, which is outlined here, I want to get into it in more detail. Inside that INI file on the local machine, you can say all kind of really crazy parameters in there to really optimize and get really detailed with it. So we've got 4 or 5 profiles, but we don't have an SDK, but there is an INI file in the client agent that controls the optimization process that we can actually control it with our profile Unity if we wanted to.
All right. Here's another question that came in. Someone asked, what would the dashboards look like?
Dashboard. So in Stratusphere, we've got drag and drop capabilities to build out, pretty much any dashboard that you're looking for. In the inspectors, so, customers ask me all the time, hey, I've dropped Stratusphere on there, but my CPU utilization is the same. Well, that's true. All the optimization process is doing is raising and lowering the priority. It's not really going to change the amount of CPU overall that a machine is using. Those applications still want to do their work. All optimization is doing is changing the foreground process to above normal so that the background processes get whatever's left over. But it's still going to use 2.2 or 4 gigahertz of computing power. So when we look at that in Stratusphere, it's actually hard to tell because my CPU utilization doesn't change. but my foreground applications will be much more responsive because I'm optimizing and raising the priority of those processes.
Okay. Someone asked, can you separate optimization out by OUs, or is it an either on or off kind of deal?
Good question. Yep. So we understand groups, and you can create machine groups. The latest version, 6.15, can do it by IP addresses, machine groups, or folders coming from Virtual Center. So many different ways that I can import machine groups into Stratusphere automatically, and then pick those groups and turn on different optimization profiles for that group. So for my Zen desktop or Horizon environment, which is a desktop OS, I want to run a single profile. For my Zen app, which is a multi-user, I want to run a different profile. So there's a drop-down, which isn't on the screen, that allows you to pick machine groups. It's done at machine level.
Okay. Here's another one. Is the data accessible through SSMS or Tableau for reporting?
We do have an API, and we have several initiatives going on with inside of Liquidware to hook up data. Actually, I think there's a webinar going on in just a couple weeks around Power BI. We have several partners that have done Tableau integration with their API, and I'm working on ServiceNow integration into our API as well. So the API is there for customers. Actually, on the community site, there's a link that shows you exactly how to plug it into Power BI. It's pretty easy. I did it the other night myself. So yes, we have an API, and they're working on examples of how to get the data into those different platforms.
Okay. Someone asked, Chris, how does this work over WAN/VPN for home office staff?
Yep, it doesn't care. So at the end of the day, and my Stratusphere system, it sits on the internet. I work from my house. I have a laptop. I have the Connector ID agent on my machine. So my Connector ID agent is always reporting stats about what I'm doing on my workstation, what applications I'm running, and then I have Optimizer turned on as well. As long as the agent is running, now I could disconnect from the internet, optimization would continue to work. Optimization does not require an internet connection. The only thing that requires an internet connection is for the Stratusphere agent to report data back. But I could be offline for 2 months, and the optimization process would continue to function.
That's great. All right. Someone asked, can we have optimizer target user groups rather than machine groups? This is for non-persistent desktops that get deleted after log off, so it's hard to group them into machines.
Yep. If an agent is installed on the machine, it's going to be monitoring that user anyway. So the optimization process is at a machine level. We have no way. I guess you could use Profile Unity or a group policy to turn it off based on a user group, but the grouping inside a Stratusphere is at a machine level, a machine group level.
Okay, great. I'm not seeing any more questions here, but there was another question or two that I answered just through the text. A few more questions about slide decks, recordings if somebody had come in late. Again, check your email for links to the resources, including the recording, the link to the slides, and to some of the assets that we have listed here, as well, including the process optimization white paper. That'll be coming out in the days following the event, normally within about 24 hours or so. Once we get the recording processed and posted online, we get that out there. So watch for that. And I did see another question just come in, so we can go ahead and go to that. If the workstation is offline, does it still retain data collect and sync to the master when back online?
Yes. So, and you can actually configure that. I think out of the box, it's like 4 days that the Stratusphere agent would maintain that data on the local machine, then it starts rolling it off. But you can set it up as high as, I think, 30 days as well. So The Stratusphere CID agent on the local box will store data until it can connect back to Stratusphere, either over the internet or in the office, and that's configurable from the main interface.
Great, and you actually covered the second part of the question, which came in afterwards, which is how long is the data retained? So perfect, Chris, on that one. So I'm not seeing any other questions unless something else pops in. We can all give you guys some of your time back, but Chris, this was a great presentation. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Again, please, if you have any more questions, and actually I see one more popped in, and someone asked, can you optimize AWS workspace desktops?
Yes, at the end of the day, it's a Windows machine, so Amazon workspaces is not a problem. We even run it on their AppStream technology too.
Great. So one last time, thank you to everyone who joined us, and even if you came in late, a copy of the recording and the slides and some of the other assets, including the white paper for process optimization, will be sent out via email. So keep an eye on your inbox in the day or so following this event for that. If you have further questions, I highly encourage you to go to community.liquidware.com. We've got a great community forum out there that our experts are on, as well as some of our other users. Join up out there. It's a great place to interact with one another, bring up questions, suggestions, and kind of further your knowledge of the Liquidware solutions, including this great process optimization feature that comes standard with Stratusphere. So again, thank you, Chris, for taking the time for us today, and thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it, and keep an eye on your inbox for that email. Thank you very much, guys.